Hi, I'm Ashley.
And I'm Bree.
We're the PR team
Behind the Theatre Downstream.
For our 6th season, we wanted to get to know the people behind the characters. We wanted to get real. This week, Bree interviewed John Grant, the actor who plays Mr. Lawrence in Little Women, and one of the actors pulling double duty as a member of the set construction team. Among the topics discussed was John's fascinating life before TTD, including his Hallmark movie moment when at 38 he decided to leave a career in the print industry to move to the country. Shortly after his move, he met his wife Bonnie and became a sheep farmer. We also discover who he most admires and what kind of roles he really wants to play. And we have to confess, the conversation continues to circle back around to some things afoot more than once. We think you'll enjoy getting to know one of the nicest guys at TTD as much as we did.
Well, welcome to Getting Real.
Thank you.
What is your name and what character do you play?
My name is John Grant, and I'm playing Mr. Lawrence.
What is your day job?
My day job is farmer. I'm a farmer.
What do you farm?
Well, mainly I raise sheep and hay.
I love sheep. I'll take all of them.
Well, you
Can I have them as pets?
Sure.
Like all of them?
Well, sure.
Okay.
I have a price, you know.
Well, not if I steal them.
Oh, sheep rustler. I heard about you. I got them all
Yep.
branded.
Yeah. Oh, dang it. How long have you been farming?
Since 2003.
So tell me a funny work story.
Gosh, there's all kinds of funny things that happen. I think one of the funniest things that's happened to me was I have 4 border collies, and they are not very good work dogs. They're not very well trained, but they like to follow me everywhere. And they're used to, if you do the same thing every day, they get used to it. So you take off and they run one direction because they think you're going that way. Well, one morning I said, I'm going this direction, which was downhill. And I hear this, well, it sounded like horses running behind me. And suddenly 4 border collies came charging down the hill and ran right into me. Knocked me off my feet. And it kind of made me mad as I landed on my bottom. Until I looked around and saw border collies tumbling in every direction, looking confused, and I just had to laugh. And those are things where nobody else is around to see it, but, you know, it is pretty funny. So I thought it was funny, but so things like that, just little silly things.
Yeah. So are they like, you said they're not very good work dogs, but like, are they like, you know, family dogs? Like, what do you do? Because like, we let our dogs like sleep in the bed and like, they're our friends, and then like, our family members, they're like, no dogs on the bed.
Well, for the most part, they're outdoor dogs with the exception of the oldest one, and she has become an indoor-outdoor dog. She comes in every night. My wife, Bonnie, she used to have a very large black lab and had him for years, and he passed away a few years ago, and she really missed him and decided she wanted another dog, and that turned into 2 dogs. So now we have 3 dogs that come into the house. So you might say we have issues, but... they're all cute.
Well, your house is small.
It's very small. Molly, the oldest border collie, she only comes in the evening. And the other 2 dogs, Bonnie's dogs, which are Heinz 57s, they are in and out, but they come in the evening. But it's all okay. They're relatively calm. And we used to have 5 cats in the house.
Oh, man.
So, you know, all the cats, indoor cats, have since passed away. So we don't have all of that going on. So it's okay. But they were all good cats. And now we have 6 outdoor cats that, well, indoor, outdoor, because they stay in the basement. A lot of detail there. But they're good cats. But I like those guys because you can interact with them, but they're not always under your feet and whatnot. Lots of
I live
dogs
in
and
like
cats.
a micro house. Like we have like negative 6,000 square feet, and there's 4 people in it and 2 dogs, and one of them is like an 80-pound boxer who thinks that she's like 2 pounds.
Wants to get on your lap.
Yep. She like when I come in the house from like work or whatever, she jumps up and kisses me on the forehead, and I'm standing.
Wow.
Like she's like, I missed you. So yeah, I get the small house, big dog. So what did you want to be growing up?
Oh gosh, I had a couple things I wanted to be. I wanted to be a construction worker. When I was very, very young, when I was in like middle school, I wanted to be an actor when I was in middle school.
Really?
I thought that would be really cool, and that kind of went away. And then as I got older, it just got to be, well, I guess I'll just do something, and never really had a clear plan. So here I am.
But you like farming, right?
I love farming. I love it very much.
So what about like your previous work? Like how did you get into farming?
I worked for years in printing as in a large scale, high production printing company, and I was in the kind of the what you call the pre-press stage, where everything before it goes to press. I kind of witnessed the industry going from intense labor, as in putting negatives together, looking at an artboard and assembling things, to all of it going to digital within a 13-year period. And it was neat to learn all of that stuff, but as soon as I felt like I was good at it, I was obsolete.
Right.
And I stayed there until a point when I was single and just really not happy. I was like, what am I doing this for? And I had an opportunity to move to Henry County to work on a produce farm. And I said, the heck with it. I sold my house and moved out here and started working on a produce farm. And from there, that's where I met my wife, who lived just a few miles away, and got married and started a sheep farm. So
This is the thing Hallmark movies are made of.
Yes, it is.
I'll have to tell Bonnie we're a Hallmark
You are,
movie.
because it's the big city guy who just said, I'm leaving it all behind and goes to work on a farm. People, nowadays, you don't hear people that do that.
Yeah.
Well, family members and some friends just said, that's crazy. But, I mean, I was responsible about it. It's not like I burned bridges, if you will. I mean, I put in a 2 weeks notice and sold my house responsibly, and just, it's not like I gave my money to a cult or anything. I knew who I was sharing a house with, and it's different, and I didn't have any kids. I mean, I think it would have been irresponsible if I had dependents and whatnot. But I was just a single guy and said, why not?
And so how has your happiness increased?
A lot. It was really kind of I don't know, I don't want to say a grind, because a lot of people have jobs they go to every day that's a grind, but it was just, I just needed something that made more sense than what I was doing. And that's what it just felt like. I was just on a treadmill, and at the end of the day, I'm like, you work all day to get these jobs done, then you go home and see the same thing in the mail and you throw it away, and you're like, wow, that's what I'm doing every day. So it was kind of depressing. So at least now, at the end of the day, I can say I did something. And
Did you like farming the second that you tried it, or was it like it grew on you kind of thing?
I've always liked being outside, and I like working outside. There are days when just like everything, there are days when things don't go well and I don't like it, or you get frustrated, or obviously things go wrong.
Right.
And I mean, that's just life. But for the most part, yeah, I really like it.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty lucky that you you felt so stuck at that job, and then it happened to be the very next thing you did is the thing you would end up loving and doing.
Well, I kind of waded into it, because I already knew that I was already kind of working part-time at this farm just for fun. So it's not like I just jumped right into it. So I kind of had an idea. And I come from, my mother and father were both from a rural background. I mean, they grew up in a rural part of Kentucky and then moved to the city when they got married. So I always had, and still have, relatives who live in the country. So I had that kind of connection from my past. Sort of knew what I was getting into, but not really. You don't know until you're actually doing it, but that's kind of what pulled me towards it.
So speaking about your family, tell me a little bit about your family situation.
Well, I am married to my wife, Bonnie. We've been married since, we just celebrated 15 years.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah. And back in December, Bonnie and I, we don't have any kids, but we have lots of dogs and cats, as I just talked about. And as far as my growing up family, which I'm still pretty close to all my brothers and sisters, I'm the youngest of 6. I've got 2 brothers and 3 sisters, and lots of nieces and nephews. I've got some great nieces and nephews, and that makes you feel kind of old when you're like, wait a minute.
I thought he was going to say I have some great ones and some bad ones.
Oh, no. But it's always nice when you hear, this is your great Uncle John. Of course. But so that's kind of my family thing. My mother and father they have passed away, so as has Bonnie. So that's kind of a weird place to be when you realize every now and then Bonnie and I look at each other and say, wow, we're orphans. But not really. But it is kind of it's a thing to get used to.
What is something that people may not know about you? I can get down on the dance floor.
I wish I could. I think people know I can't dance. Well, this goes back to the question of what did you want to be when you grew up, and I kind of forgot about this. I wanted to be a cartoonist, because when I was a kid, I used to draw a lot, even as a young adult. And I was never as good as, say, like Matt, but I used to just draw lots of comic strip characters, or from a magazine, draw a picture of a person in a magazine. So I can draw pretty well. I'm not I watch Matt and I go, yeah, I can draw okay. Or your mother, Ashley's mother. I mean, I'm just always amazed at people that can, especially on a big scale, do something. I found out that it wasn't the job for me when somebody would say, hey, would you draw me this? And I figured out that the only time I liked to draw was when I was in the mood to draw. Or to be artistic, and so obviously that doesn't lend itself to doing it for a living, because I can go for months and not feel like it. And actually I don't do it much anymore, and I kind of miss it, because it was almost, I would say, kind of meditative to sit around and just doodle and draw something and really get into it, and I just never feel like I have enough time to do that. So,
well, that's neat.
well,
You and Matt are so cute together. Oh my goodness. They share interests. Oh, the cutest.
little bromance there. Yeah.
So, talking about theater, what is your acting origin story? Did you do anything in middle school? Because you said that you wanted to be an actor in middle school. So did you try
I did a couple of plays in middle school. In 5th grade, I was Ebenezer Scrooge in A Christmas Carol.
Oh.
And I loved it. I really loved it. It was so much fun. And actually, I think the school, we did a pretty good job. And then the next year, we did this really kind of hokey play called The Stable Boy, and it was terrible. And I think that kind of cured me from my wanting to be an actor after that. And then I never really thought anything more about it until, I guess it was 2017. And Laura Adams, who is, knows my wife Bonnie, because Bonnie taught Margaret, she said to me and another couple people, hey, we need men for this play. Will you audition? And I said, sure. And everybody said, really? People were like, really? And I was scared. When I came in to do that audition, I was shaking, because I saw people up there looking so calm and cool. And I remember reading a line and my leg was shaking so hard. But I've kind of gotten over that. I still get nervous at auditions, don't get me wrong, but not petrified like I was. So that's kind of it, really. If it hadn't been for Laura and that one day, I thought about it when I first heard about the Theatre Downstream, but they have all the experienced people they need. So,
and now you know differently.
Well, I didn't realize that there was such a shortage of men who would be willing to do it. I think it's kind of funny, or odd funny, that there's so many guys that enjoy movies and television but think it's silly to do a play. Why?
Yeah. It took me a while to learn it's not that you don't like acting, it's that you did a bad play. Because I tried theater in 6th grade and I was like, no, this is stupid. And then I really wish I hadn't done that, because I was like, wait a minute, okay. Yeah, so I'm glad I got back into it too. Do you have a dream show or a dream role?
Well, gosh, I would say I think A Christmas Carol would be fun. And I think Ebenezer Scrooge, that would be a dream role, because I can be a grumpy old man pretty well.
Yeah, you want to be cast as somebody grumpy. He's like, please make me grumpy.
Yeah,
and he's just so sweet, nobody wants to.
Oh, well, I don't know. Bonnie might say he can be grumpy. Yeah, just if he doesn't eat enough, he's grumpy.
Or we'll ask the border collies too.
Oh yeah.
And the sheep.
He's
grumpy.
That's his homework before every rehearsal. Don't eat, spend time with the dogs and the sheep. That's it.
Well, I said before I can't dance very well, but I've always loved Fiddler on the Roof. And that, I know I couldn't probably be the big guy, Tevye, or whatever his name was, but that is that play, I've always liked that musical. It's just the music's fun, the story's neat and sad, but a lot of good songs in it. But, and this sounds silly, but Brian and Keith and I have talked about this. that Something's Afoot would be fun to do again, because that play,
I would do it.
Everyone is
anytime.
always saying that.
that was just, I don't know what, maybe it was just the group of people, but
It's just such a fun show, and I feel like we kind of got gypped because of that rain, and it was one
Mm-hmm.
weekend, and it rained, and I just have always felt like, oh, we need to redo it.
and people didn't know it. They well, have never heard of that play, and everybody that came to it really enjoyed it.
It's such a good show.
And it was just fun. It was fun building the set. Every character was fun.
That's one of those that I would revive with the original cast. I would just say, sorry, everyone else, we're just redoing it.
John Trueblood. I
I
mean,
know.
that's when I met John Trueblood. I'm like, I didn't know John from Adam, and he turned out to be one of my favorite people in the whole world. He's just, when you're working with him, he's like, anything they asked John to do, well, certainly I could do that. And he'd volunteer and helpful, and Cindy and Brian and Elizabeth and just everybody. It was just fun. So
Yeah, that was a great cast.
it was fun.
I loved that show. What is your method for memorizing lines?
I keep trying different methods. What really works for me is to just start reading and rereading my lines, and I like to highlight the lines before and after mine to help me. And then my wife is a big help because she's willing to read them with me and just kind of call and repeat. And usually it's like if we're driving somewhere, she'll have the script, and that really helps. You're focusing on something else, but it makes you focus. But I'm always willing to take anybody's advice because I'm, obviously a new guy at this. So every trick in the book, I'll try it because that's hard.
Actually, so I didn't have like a method for memorizing lines, but I remember Nightwatch. That was the first straight play that I ever did, and it was the most lines because I was understudying for the lead, so it was the most lines in the show, and I was like, I have no idea how I'm going to do this. And I saw this one method. I can't remember where I saw it now, and I was like, this is absolutely ridiculous. I saw it like towards the beginning of the show. I was like, there's no way. And then of course by the end of the show I was so desperate. I was like, okay, I have to figure this out now. And I was like, I'm going to try it. So I read the script and then immediately slept. And that helped a lot. And I was like, okay, so how does this work? Like, why is this a thing? And I looked it up, and it says that whatever you do right before you go to sleep, your brain stores that. Once you go to sleep, it stores it in a different part of your brain, so it's easier to remember it. So that's what I do, is like, if I'm feeling sleepy, I'll read my lines, and then I'm like, okay, now I'm going to bed.
Well,
And it helps remember lines.
now that you mention that, Bonnie suggested that because I think she had read that too. And with 12 Angry Jurors, which had lots and lots of lines, I would, every night before I went to bed, I would try to read at least, a quarter or half of the play. And it did seem to help. It seemed, and just make you more familiar with it. But yeah, I'd heard that too.
So for me, what I do is I do kind of a combination of a lot of different things. I'll read it, I'll run lines, but the thing I do first when it's just me working on it is I'll get a little postcard and I will cover up everything below the first line and I will say that first line. And then you have to kind of be familiar with it, but then I will lower it, look at the second line, raise it back up, do the first and second line, and then keep going, like what I call chunking it. So I just add to it, and I won't move on until I have each little piece.
That's a good idea.
I do that, and then I'll like have it. I did one time I made a copy of pages. Like if there was a section that I was struggling with, I made a copy of those pages and whited out my lines and wrote them back in.
Oh, yeah,
so the act of
wow.
writing it in helped a lot. Yeah.
Candy Thomas, that's what she does. She gets a fresh notebook and she will handwrite her lines, and there's something between the connection of. And I did that for the Annie Sullivan monologues. I hand wrote them, and then I used my handwritten thing, and I memorized from the hand.
I think you told me that at 12
So I
Angry
would
Jurors, and
cover
I
it.
did some of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird ones. Or I've heard of putting your script under your pillow. Heard of that one too. Haven't tried that one. I feel
Osmosis
like,
or what?
I mean,
That one's
if you're desperate,
sketchy.
just never even reads it. You're just
Yeah.
like, oh, I'll just sleep on it.
Literally.
Has the show memorized. Is there a show that you would like TTD to go, besides Something's Afoot, that you would like TTD to go back to, or something that you saw that you were like, I would have liked to have been in that, or?
Actually, I have not seen very many shows. I saw The Miracle Worker. I think that might be the only show I had seen. And I wanted to see Steel Magnolias. For some reason, I missed it. but I would really want to see that. I keep hearing about Beauty and the Beast and Mary Poppins, and I would like to go back and sounds like Mary Poppins was quite the chore, but either one of those would be kind of neat to see.
Who do you look up to as an actor or director or writer or whatever?
I guess on the big screen, I've always been impressed with Tom Hanks just because he just seems like even though Tom Hanks is one of those actors where when you see him, you're like, well, there's Tom Hanks. But after you watch it for a bit, you're like, wow, he's doing such a good job. And he just seems like a nice guy. And I'm not saying that makes you a great actor, but he seems like it works for him. But, or Gary Oldman. And he's someone that you see a movie and you're like, that's not Gary Oldman. He doesn't.
Yes, you never recognize him.
I mean, he just falls into a character and you're like, that's amazing. And Angela Bassett. I've always liked her. She just seems like every role she gets, it's hers. And I've always liked watching her and Katharine Hepburn. You gotta like some of the and Jimmy Stewart and some of those older actors. And I don't know enough writers or directors to say, but as far as actors go, that's.
I always admire actors like Gary Oldman or like Johnny Depp is really good at this too. Because a lot of times if the actor is bigger, it's hard to see them as that character. So like you're not watching this character, you're watching Tom Cruise play this character. Or you're watching, So I admire actors who like when you're watching the movie, you're watching the character. You're not watching the actor. So yeah, actors like them, I'm like I love you. Do you suffer from stage nerves?
A little bit.
Yeah. How do you fight them?
I just try to be prepared, try to know where I'm at and know what I have to do and make sure I've got all that down. And I figure if I have that down, then I've done everything I can.
Yeah. And I think a little bit's probably good. Probably okay. Keeps you on your toes. You're like, okay. Right. What do you find most enjoyable about acting?
I'd say with Theatre Downstream, it's just my experience has been the camaraderie. It feels like everybody is rooting for everybody because big part, small part, every part is important, and how well it's played helps the whole show. And I feel like everybody's always wanting everybody to do their best and being helpful. I've never experienced somebody being like a diva or I don't know what the male equivalent of a diva is.
I think it's still a diva.
Diva.
Yeah.
That's what I like. It. Unlike a sports team where there's the star player, it feels like obviously there's lead roles and whatnot, but it seems like there's a spirit where everybody is important, and everybody is important.
So why do you think that theater is important?
I think it's important, especially theater in Henry County. I know it's not the Henry County Community Theater, but out here it's important that folks have something other than, I'm not down on sports, but something other than sports that they can get behind and get involved in. I just feel like it casts a wide net where so many different people can be a part of it and see things that they maybe wouldn't see. So I think that's a really important thing.
I think so too, yeah. If you could wave a magic wand and change any one thing about the theater industry, what would you change?
I would say that it rolls it for more just young people in that awkward in-between age, or like musicals where it's not just one or two people who are singing all the songs, but where it's kind of like a ensemble and
kind
not
of like Something's Afoot was, where it was more ensemble pieces.
Where everybody kind of has a chance to step out into the spotlight, and low ticket prices, making sure it's accessible to everyone, and also just that more people don't look at it as just being like something silly. I've had that. What are you doing that for? That's silly. A legitimate pastime that, I don't know, I think it's good for the community.
So maybe more respect for...
More respect, yeah. Not like anybody has to applaud every time, but that it's not just something silly you're doing.
Just accepting it and validating it.
Yeah. Some validation. I like that.
So, moving on to Little Women specifically, why did you want to be a part of the production?
I guess I'm kind of addicted to coming to the auditions and
the
trying
bug.
out for a part. and I knew there weren't very many male parts, and I thought, well, that could be one or two things. Either not very many men will try out, or audition, so I should, just as doing my part. I just thought it seemed like a fun play.
What did you know about Little Women prior to doing the show?
Not a whole lot. I've heard about Little Women all my life and just kind of knew it peripherally, if that's the right word. But I mean, I sort of knew the story, but knew that there's Joe the tomboy, and that was really about it. I knew that a lot of women really liked the story, and I was always kind of intrigued by that, but I never really paid a lot of attention to it.
I think everybody at least knows of it, whether they know it or not. They've heard it. What do you feel like is the most intimidating part of bringing a classic story to the stage?
Because everybody knows it, and everybody has their own interpretation of it, and there's been 2, 3, 4 movies, many movies made, and probably a lot of many other
Katharine
plays.
Hepburn, June Allison. I don't know if that was the same film. I think there was a Katharine Hepburn as Joe, June Allison as Joe, Winona Ryder as Joe. Then we've got the most recent adaptation. We have a PBS special that's come out. Another Hollywood movie last year where it was modernized. So that's just 6 that I can name off the top of my head.
So you're dealing with a lot of preconceived notions, and like, well, that's not Joe. That's not how Joe should be, or Marmee, or Professor Bear, or any of them. So everybody's coming, I guess, kind of with a bias.
Yeah.
And so I would say, fortunately, my character's got an itty-bitty part, so, nobody paid attention. I actually watched the Winona Ryder version the other day, and I think my character had he said 3 lines in the whole movie.
I feel like your character, and I don't know why I made this association, I think your character is equivalent to the man that lives next door in Home Alone. That Kevin is scared of.
Oh, yeah. All right.
It's the same character.
I'll have to watch that sometime.
We need to do that show at TTD.
Yes.
Hayden can be Kevin.
Brian would love making that house with all the booby traps. That'd be funny.
Oh man, that'd be so funny.
I do recommend that you watch the PBS. You can get it at the library.
Okay.
The miniseries, I really liked that.
It was good?
Yes.
It was like the Pride and Prejudice version, a PBS version, I found very
liked
good.
It. It's 3 hours long, so it's 3 one-hour episodes. But the movie that was just released was 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Wow.
So it's not much more of a commitment.
I need to go see that. So tell me a little bit about your character.
My character is Mr. James Lawrence. He is the wealthy next-door neighbor to the Marches, and he is, at least in the beginning of the play, considered odd and I guess aloof, or you just don't see him much. So kind of mysterious.
But isn't he also perceived as grumpy? So
And perceived as
there
grumpy.
you go. There's
so
your
there,
grumpy.
Got the grumpy.
There's your grumpy, and also the guy from Home Alone. Same character. You could have used the exact same description.
All right.
Just saying. What do you love about your character?
I think the fact that he is grumpy, but he's really a good guy, and I like that.
I think his relationship with Beth is very sweet.
I do too.
What is the easiest part or hardest part to identify with your character?
The easiest part is being grumpy. I just keep going to that. The hardest part is he's wealthy. I remember when I read the character description to my wife, I said, Mr. Lawrence, a wealthy man. I said, I'm really going to have to act on this one.
Pulling out all the stops. How do you think that our version of Little Women is going to be different than the other versions, than the other 450,000?
Well, I have not seen all of them, but I would say that this is going to be sincere, and we're going to follow the script, and I think everybody's going to give it their best and try to be a really true representation of the work.
So have you been to rehearsals for the show yet? Because we're recording this fairly early in the game.
We've had a read-through, and then last night we started blocking.
How do you think that it's going?
I think it's going well. There is a lot of blocking in this, and being a straight play with just lots of dialogue. Like I said, I don't have a very big part, and I was just kind of amazed at how much all these other actors are going to have to remember, just walking around this one room and being where they're supposed to be. But I think everybody seems up to it, and so far it seems like it's going to be pretty fun building the set and doing the rehearsals. So, but we got through Act 1 through Scene 1 through 4, so it's a lot of work. Going to be a lot of work.
You were talking about how it's a lot for the other actors. I remember at auditions, Michelle Coots, who is actually playing Josephine, she's amazing. She came up to the table and she said, can you take me off as Joe? She told Lori this. She said, can you take me off as Josephine because I can't memorize all of that. And Lori was like, you don't have to, you get to read it. And she's like, oh, okay. But yeah, Josephine has a lot, so I cannot imagine trying to memorize that.
Well, I was thinking if you did, it would just be, I could see being the narrator getting caught up in the story and all of a sudden, oh, where was I?
Yeah.
have to jump in.
Yeah. Why do you think that people should come see Little Women?
I think because we will do a very good job, and I think that there's a lot of talented young and old actors in this, and I think whether you know the story or not, I think we will present it well. I think it'll be awesome.
Because you'll be a loser if you don't come.
Well, yeah, that too. Peer pressure always works.
Don't be a loser.
I just had a thought. Since you've been with us since 2017, how has it been for you to sort of have different configurations of your friends? Now, like you're working with Matt again, but you're meeting some new people. Has that been kind of cool to see?
Oh yeah, it is. It's every play has a different flavor, if you will, a different feeling. And I was just thinking yesterday, I said, well, I probably really won't see Matt much because until we actually start getting into full rehearsals, because his character and mine are rarely in the same scenes. So that kind of throws a weird angle at it, but it's neat to get to know new people or other people better. Like I worked with Brandon, 12 Angry Jurors, Brandon Rose, but really that play, since it was all on stage all the time, we didn't have the same backstage, getting to know you, hanging out. And even in Sound of Music, you're so busy watching what you had to do next, it kind of felt like you didn't get to know. So I think that'll be interesting.
And you do have a lot of jurors in this show, so it's interesting about what you were doing this time last year versus this year, who you're playing. I always think that's neat, too.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Just a year ago was 12 Angry Jurors, and 2 years ago was Something's Afoot, and just the difference between all of them. But it's always neat, just the different mojo that comes along with each play, and none are better or worse necessarily. It's just different, and that's always kind of fun. And again, the set, that's to watch the set every Saturday build up and see people when they come in and go, wow, it's really changed. And that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
So,
well, you read my mind. That was a great segue. Thank you for that, because I was going to ask you about set construction. So how's that going?
I think it's going well. It feels like we have a really clear idea of what we're doing, and we have a clear plan. I mean, sometimes it feels like going in, there's a lot of unknowns, and how are we going to do this? How are we going to lift the witch in Wizard of Oz?
Yeah.
Or Something's Afoot, how are we going to make that prank work?
Yeah.
And this one feels like we just feel, I don't want to say in control, but kind of we know what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, and and we had it kind of a rough draft, if you will, set up yesterday to show Jill and all the actors that were there what we were doing and how that would work, and it feels pretty good.
Good, yeah. When did you start helping out with the set construction?
I think a little bit on Pride and Prejudice. And that's when I found out that when you told Brian you were going to help, you better show up, because I said, yeah, I can probably help. And something came up and I couldn't. And then the next rehearsal was like, where were you, man? You said you were coming. I'm like, oh, gosh. So now when I can't come, I say I can't come. And when I say I'll be there, I'll be there. Yeah. And I understand it, because so you need all the help you can get a lot of times.
What's been your favorite set that you've worked on?
Gosh, Something's Afoot is right up there. He Needed Killing was so much fun. The sarcophagus, the hole in the floor. The Wizard of Oz was a lot of fun too. It was fun, but it was hard. I mean, the Witch's Lift, that was...
I cannot imagine.
We were struggling. And everybody was putting their ideas behind it. And I think it was we only had like a weekend or two left when we finally figured it out and got it to work. And every night I was thinking, please work right. And unfortunately, it worked well every night. Me and John Peed, we were P&G witch rigging.
P&G, that's adorable.
We needed a business card.
We should have made you one.
P&G witch rigging for all your witchy needs.
Yeah.
That's a very niche business.
The first rehearsal where Nancy Root got on there and we raised the platform up. John Pete had not done it before, and we gave it all, and I think she might have actually bounced a little bit when she got, because we brought her down. She goes, a little easier next time, guys.
Like a seesaw,
Yeah.
just throws her.
That's a lot of trust for her to get on there.
Oh man, Nancy would be the one to do it though.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it was pretty funny because anytime we were down there waiting for our cue, John and I were at the ready, and she'd be crouched down, and I'd see her fingers go over the edge of the platform, which I knew she couldn't do because that's like a pinch point. And I couldn't say anything, so I kept smacking her hands. And she'd pull them back, and they'd come back, and I'd smack them again. She goes, I think you're enjoying that. Well, I said, no, I just don't want your hands to get caught.
man.
But
So now we're gonna move on to the rapid fires.
okay.
So if you could choose the next TTD show, what would it be?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, I talked about some of my favorite shows, like The Fiddler on the Roof and Christmas Carol, but there are like a jillion plays out there, and I know movies that are plays. I've heard mentioned A Few Good Men, which I think that would be really awesome as a play. Some of the classics, I suppose. Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, that would be kind of neat. Anything like that. Or Death of a Salesman, something dramatic. Or anything funny. I mean, I like funny. So,
What kind of roles do you prefer?
funny, I gravitate towards that. Or loud or silly.
Me too.
Which is why you like Flint so much.
I loved Flint. That was great.
That was a really good one too. Like you did so good. Oh my goodness.
This is just a Something's Afoot fan.
Yes, it is. That's what we're gonna title it. Something's Afoot fan podcast featuring John Grant. It's not John Grant's podcast. It's featuring. And Little Women's in there somewhere. Tell me about a time when you had a really bad day, but you had to perform that night. How did you get through it?
Well, it's Something's Afoot. It was Saturday, and like Ashley said, it was raining, and rain. And at the time, our farm, we have to cross a creek, and we had this old bridge that would flood. So we actually got flooded out that night. Went home, and we couldn't get to our house.
Wow.
Fortunately, we were house sitting for someone just down the road, so we had a place to stay, but I was still in my makeup, sleeping on a strange bed with no change of clothes. I didn't get any sleep that night. Finally, the next morning, we could get to our house. Didn't get much sleep, and then came in that afternoon to do the Sunday matinee, and I was a zombie. I felt just like I'm going to miss a cue, and I felt like I did, but everybody said, no, you didn't miss anything, but that was probably the worst. I just didn't feel good. I was sleepy, and you knew you had to strike the set after all of that. So that was probably one of the worst. Yeah, one of the worst ones. But I know people have had worse than it. People have actually been really sick and gone on. So I was just sleepy. So
Hey, that's a big one. When you're going on stage, sleepy is a big deal.
well, yeah, but could have been worse.
It could
It could have been raining.
So how did you get through it?
I drank a lot of coffee and just, and paid really close attention to what was going on, which was easy to do in that show because you just had to, there's always something going on.
What is the biggest audience that you have performed in front of?
Yeah, I don't know. Would you say one of the White Christmases? Weren't there some really big audiences for that?
I think so. And the last Sound of Music audience was pretty big.
Right.
So maybe one of those.
How was Oz?
I can't remember.
Oz was pretty big. I remember one night it seemed, but when the lights go down,
Really see if that's the first one.
you never really know. I'm always surprised when the lights come up, like, wow, there's a lot of people here.
Yeah.
Or wow, there's just a few people here.
Well, my wife's here, and that's it. Cool. What behavior or habit did you have as a child that you've gotten rid of as you've gotten older?
I think when I was a kid, I was quite the daydreamer. I even had it written on my report card. John is a good student, but he daydreams too much. So I try to pay better attention and be more focused. So I hope I can still daydream with the best of them, but try to pay more attention.
What is a classic novel that you love, or at least that you've just read?
A few years ago, and I've read it a couple times, but Of Mice and Men, it's that short novel by John Steinbeck. And I don't know why that novel just gets me, especially but Lenny, who gets killed, and his friend kills him. I think that's how it goes. I've seen the movie, I've read the book, and it's a tough one.
Why does his friend kill him?
Because he knew he was going to be killed by like a posse or a group of men who, like a rich fella who took his hired hands, and he knew when they got him they would kill him, and he did it himself
as a favor.
And it was, yeah. Hope I'm getting that story right.
Yeah,
People
I
hear
think
it
you
and
are. Yeah, I think so.
It's been a while since I read it, but
Yeah, me too.
It's a tough one. And there's a movie, Gary Sinise and John Malkovich, and gosh, it
It was so good.
It was very good.
What new beginning in your life are you most looking forward to? Because, you know.
I think he's already had one.
Yeah, I think I've
That's very true.
had that midlife crisis, and
How old were you when that happened?
let's see, that was 2003, so that would make me about 38, right around there. Yeah, 38.
So what I was doing in 2003 is appearing in Something's Afoot.
Oh,
And
wow.
It all comes back to
There you go.
In 2003, I was at daycare.
Oh gosh.
All right. Thanks for that, Bree.
I was 4 years old.
I was 23
Wow.
and you were 38.
I was 4.
Oh golly.
Hey, Henry wasn't even here.
Henry was not even
So
born yet.
I don't lose. He does.
He's the youngest.
What is something from your childhood that you keep close to your heart?
I think something I keep close is we always had supper together. My mom and dad, my brothers and sisters. I don't think it was one of those things where it's important that we all eat together as a family. It's just, that's what you did. And I just remember sitting around, we all had our spot. It's a good memory for me. All my brothers and sisters, and we're all there eating whatever. There was always potatoes somewhere in the mix.
That's the actual good memory. He's making it sound cuter, but really it was the potatoes.
Oh yeah, there's always good food.
Something from your childhood you keep close to your heart. My potatoes. I keep them real close.
There's fried taters, mashed taters, boiled taters, baked
It's like in
taters.
the Forrest Gump where he's talking about shrimp.
Can't go wrong with taters. Got your hash brown.
I think I'm going to ask him anyways.
Okay.
So, John, which March sister do you think that you would be?
I would say I would want to be Jo. Because she's
wouldn't?
pretty. Yeah,
Right.
who would?
Okay, so let me ask you this way. You would want to be Jo, but who do you think you probably actually, align with?
I would probably say Meg. Meg just seems the most level-headed. I'm not saying the most level-headed, but I think Meg.
Good answer.
Nobody
Good
wants-
answer.
Nobody wants to be Amy, gosh.
That's what I said.
And Beth died, so
Yeah.
that's a loaded question.
It's either Meg or Joe.
So, our final 3 questions. What is your best advice for other actors?
Get out there and do it. And somebody else told me this, there's no such thing as a small part. And I've had big parts and small parts, and sometimes you're bummed when you get a small part, but then when you look back on it, you can do a lot with a small part. And I think Brian said this, if the part wasn't important, it wouldn't be in there. And that's the way you have to look at it. Take whatever parts you can get. And I saw an actor, I can't remember this fellow's name, I'm bad with names. It was just the other day, he's one of the actors in that movie, The Two Popes.
Okay.
Opposite of Anthony Hopkins.
It was the guy who was in Pirates of the Caribbean.
That's it.
Yeah.
And
Jonathan Pryce.
right. And he's a serious actor,
Yes.
Shakespeare and whatnot, and he got offered the role in Pirates of the Caribbean, and he thought, well, I'm this kind of actor. I don't even know if I should take this or not. And he went to his mentor and asked him, and the guy just looked at him and said, well, it's your job. And I thought that was kind of pretty cool, And so he said, hey, I've been pretty successful. So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of neat. Big part, small part, just have fun with it.
Yeah,
I think
just have
that's the
fun.
important thing.
Yes.
Have fun and be willing to learn something.
What would you tell the 10-year-old version of yourself?
I would just say relax. When you're 10 years old, the world is big and unknown. And, when you're 54, it's still big and unknown.
Yeah.
But there's not much you can do about it.
Just
So
relax. You're not going to figure any of this out.
you'll
So you
figure
might
a
as well
few.
relax.
You'll figure a few things out. Other things you'll still be scratching your head, but relax. It's enjoy the ride. There you go.
I like that one.
Yeah.
There you go. Put it on a t-shirt. Put it on a
Enjoy the-
calendar with a cat.
Be joyful, though you've considered all the facts. That's a quote from a poem I really like. So I actually have that on a T-shirt.
If you knew that you could do something without fail, what would you choose to do?
Wow, I've read that and I struggle with it because on so many what if I could achieve world peace? Why not? Or just that people would get along with each other, or on a smaller scale that I could be a famous cartoonist, or not famous, but at least successful. But I don't know. I don't really know how to answer that. Just all those things, I guess.
You would answer the question.
I would answer the question, yeah, without fail. That's tough. I mean, what would you all do? I'm going to throw it back at you. What would you do with...
If I knew I couldn't fail at it, I would actually write more. I would finish the novel I started like 5 years ago because I'm so intimidated by novel writing, because stage writing to me is a lot easier because all I have to do is dialogue and just think of sets and plots and that. It's more abstract. But in novel writing, you have to describe what everything looks like, and that part is boring to me. It sounds weird, but I like the content. I want to write a book, but I don't want to tell you all the world. I just want to have conversations. So that's why I tend more to...
See, I'm the opposite. I like writing the descriptions and detailing and that kind of thing.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. I knew that you wrote. I didn't know that you wrote, and I didn't know that you liked to write a novel. I mean,
I've been working on it.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I had two things in mind. I would either pursue photography full time, or I would pursue, I would try getting onto SNL.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
That's really good.
Yeah.
You and Frankie, head out there.
I would love to. My freshman year of college, I was like, this is amazing. This is what, because I took a couple improv classes. I was like, I want to do this so bad. But, yeah. No.
Or I'd make more movies if I knew they couldn't fail.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, it takes a lot of money to make a movie. So it would have to succeed in order to fund the next one.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you could say you could do it without fail, I mean, that'd be kind of cool to go try to be in a Hollywood movie. And the fellow who played John Mahoney played Frasier's dad and Frasier. When he passed away, I heard an interview. He didn't start acting until he was like 35.
Yep.
And took acting classes. And I thought, wow. And he was a pretty good actor, I thought.
He was.
I thought that was kind of neat.
Never know till you try it.
That's true.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I can't think of anything.
Okay, well, thank you for appearing on Getting Real.
You're welcome.
It was great having you.
Well, it's great to be here.
Special thanks to John Grant. Next week, we'll talk to Brandon Rose, who plays John Brooke in Little Women. Very special thanks to the sponsors of Little Women: Mary Bryant, Kentucky Farm Bureau Insurance, and the bookstore at the Berry Center. This episode of Getting Real was executive produced, edited, and written by me, Ashley Raymer-Brown.
It was produced and co-written by me, Bree Highshoe.
Music was provided by Final Cut Pro, and artwork was created by Ashley Raymer-Brown. That's me. And Bree Highshoe.
That's me.
Getting Real is a separate entity from the Theatre Downstream. The thoughts and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not reflect the thoughts and opinions of the Theatre Downstream or the sponsors of their shows. Thanks for listening.
Bree.
John.
Unbelievable.
I still haven't come up with one.